Have you ever taken a photo and noticed something standing right behind you? A group of friends enters an abandoned house for fun, but when they try to leave, they're not the same anymore. The abandoned house at the end of the village Thray wind howled through the trees as 5 friends stood at the edge of an old dirt road, staring at the decayed mansion that loomed before them. The house had stood abandoned for decades, its windows shattered, its wooden frame weathered by time. "Come on, guys," Ryan said, his voice edged with excitement. "We've talked about this for years. If we don't do it now, we never will." "I still think this is a bad idea," Emily muttered, pulling her hoodie tighter around her. "There's a reason no one goes near this place. The only reason is superstition," Mark said, rolling his eyes. "Ghost stories, that's all." Sophia and Jake exchanged glances. They had grown up hearing tales about the abandoned house. Some said a family once lived there, only to vanish without a trace. Others claimed a madman had slaughtered his victims inside. But the most chilling rumor was about the child, a little girl who appeared in photographs taken near the house, always watching. Ryan held up his phone, the flashlight casting eerie shadows on the overgrown pathway. "Let's do this." With hesitant steps, they crossed the threshold of the iron gate, its rusted hinges screeching in protest. The air grew noticeably colder as they approached the porch. The wooden boards creaked beneath their weight. Mark reached for the door handle and pushed. The door swung open with a groan, revealing a dark hallway. A musty, damp smell filled their nostrils. "This place is disgusting," Sophia whispered. They stepped inside. Dust floated in the air, caught in the beams of their flashlights. The wallpaper was peeling, and the wooden floor was warped. "Let's take a few photos," Jake suggested, pulling out his camera. They posed in front of the grand staircase, the chandelier above them swaying slightly despite the still air. The house seemed eerily quiet, as if it were holding its breath. After snapping a few shots, they continued exploring. The living room was filled with broken furniture, a rotting couch, and a fireplace caked in soot. "Let's go upstairs," Ryan suggested. Emily hesitated but followed. The staircase groaned under their weight, and every step felt like it could collapse at any moment. They reached the second floor, where the hallway stretched into darkness. "This is where people say the family disappeared," Sophia whispered. Just then, a loud thump echoed from one of the rooms. Everyone froze. "What was that?" Emily gasped. Ryan stepped forward and pushed open a door. It led to a child's bedroom. A small wooden rocking horse sat in the corner, its paint faded. A bed with tattered sheets stood against the wall. Jake raised his camera and took a picture. "Let's get out of here," Emily urged. They turned back toward the staircase, but then a giggle, faint, almost imperceptible. The friends exchanged terrified looks. "No way," Mark whispered. Jake's hands trembled as he checked his camera screen. His face went pale. "What's wrong?" Ryan asked. Jake turned the screen toward them. The latest photo of the bedroom was displayed. Everything looked the same except a little girl stood in the doorway, staring directly at them. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the wind whistling through the broken windows. Jake's hands trembled as he stared at the camera screen. The girl in the photo had wide, empty eyes and wore a tattered white dress. Her dark hair hung over her face, partially obscuring her features. That's not real," Mark stammered. Emily clutched Sophia's arm. "We need to get out of here." Ryan took the camera and examined the picture, his usual confidence replaced by unease. "Maybe it's just a trick of the light." "Are you serious?" Jake snapped. "There was no one in that room when I took the photo." A creaking sound echoed from down the hallway. "Let's just go," Sophia pleaded. They turned toward the staircase. Then, bang! A door at the end of the hallway slammed shut on its own. The sound reverberated through the house, making the walls tremble. "Did you see that?" Mark whispered. No one answered. They were too afraid. Ryan took a cautious step forward. "We have to check it out." "No, we don't," Emily protested. "We should leave right now." But Ryan was already moving. The others reluctantly followed, their footsteps hesitant. As they neared the door, they saw it was old and wooden, with deep scratches along its surface. The brass doorknob was tarnished. Ryan reached out to turn it, but it wouldn't budge. "It's locked." "Good, let's go," Sophia urged. But then, click, the doorknob turned on its own. Ryan jerked his hand away as the door creaked open, revealing darkness beyond. A cold gust of air rushed out, carrying the scent of damp wood and something faintly metallic. Jake lifted his camera and took a photo. The flash illuminated the space for a brief second, revealing what looked like an old nursery. A small bed with a torn mattress sat against the wall. A single wooden chair faced the window, its back toward them. Dolls were scattered across the floor, their eyes staring blankly. A large, cracked mirror leaned against the far wall, reflecting only darkness. And then, the chair moved. It turned slightly, just a few inches, but enough for them all to see. Sophia gasped. Emily grabbed Jake's arm so tightly that her nails dug into his skin. Mark took a step back. "This is messed up." Then the whispering began, soft, indecipherable, like dozens of voices speaking at once. It came from everywhere and nowhere. The air grew heavier, pressing down on them. Jake snapped another picture, his hands shaking. The camera's flash flickered, and for a brief second, they saw her, the little girl, standing by the mirror, her head tilted slightly, her lips barely moving, as if whispering along with the voices. Then the flash faded, and the room was dark again. Emily turned and ran. "I'm done. I'm out of here." The others didn't hesitate. They bolted down the hallway, their footsteps pounding against the creaky floor. As they reached the staircase, a loud crash came from behind them. The nursery door slammed shut with such force that the walls shook. They stumbled down the stairs, nearly tripping over each other in their panic. Reaching the front door, Ryan yanked it open. The cold night air was a relief against their sweaty skin. They didn't stop running until they reached the rusted gate. Panting, they turned back to look at the house. It stood there, silent and still, as if nothing had happened. But something had happened. Jake looked at his camera, his face pale. Sophia hesitated. What's wrong?" Slowly, Jake showed them the latest photo. It was a picture of the nursery, just as they had seen it. Except now, the little girl was standing right behind them. And this time, she was smiling. The group stood outside the house, breathless, their hearts pounding. The cold night air wrapped around them, but it did nothing to calm their nerves. Jake's hands trembled as he held up his camera, staring at the image on the screen. The little girl in the photo stood right behind them in the nursery, her pale face stretched into an unnatural smile. "No, no way," Mark whispered, his voice barely audible. Sophia covered her mouth with her hands, suppressing a scream. Emily turned away, shaking her head. "This isn't happening. It's not real." Ryan swallowed hard. "We're leaving. Right now." No one argued. Without another word, they turned and hurried down the road, away from the abandoned house. But something was wrong. The night was too quiet. No wind, no chirping insects, no distant rustling of leaves. Just silence, a thick, suffocating silence that pressed against them like an unseen force. Then, footsteps, soft, barefoot, coming from behind them. Emily froze mid-step. "Tell me you guys heard that." No one answered. They didn't need to. The color had drained from everyone's face. Jake turned, raising his camera with trembling hands. He pressed the shutter. The flash went off, illuminating the road for a brief second. Then he saw it, a shadowy figure standing just a few feet behind them, not fully formed, just a dark, indistinct shape with hollow eyes. It was getting closer. Jake staggered backward, nearly dropping his camera. "Run!" They bolted, their feet pounding against the dirt road, lungs burning. The sound of footsteps behind them grew louder, faster. Then Emily screamed. The others skidded to a stop and turned. Emily had fallen. Her hands scraped from the rough ground, but she wasn't looking at her wounds. She was looking at the road ahead, or rather, what wasn't ahead. The village was gone. Instead of familiar houses and street lights, there was only an endless twisting road stretching into darkness. Sophia gasped, spinning in a circle. Where are we? This was supposed to lead back to town. Mark clutched his head. No, this isn't possible." Ryan turned back toward the house. It was still there, right behind them, as if they had never left. Emily's voice shook. "We didn't move. We've been running, but we never left." Jake's breathing was ragged. "It's the house. It's messing with us." Then the whispering returned, closer this time, surrounding them. Emily clutched Ryan's arm. "Make it stop, please." Ryan, despite the terror in his eyes, squared his shoulders. "We need to go back inside." Sophia's head snapped toward him. "Are you insane?" "No, you have a better idea." Ryan shot back. "If we're stuck here no matter what, we need to figure out why." A heavy silence followed. No one wanted to agree, but what choice did they have? Taking slow, reluctant steps, they approached the house once more. The front door was wide open, as if inviting them in. Jake whispered, "This is a mistake." No one disagreed. They stepped inside. The air inside was even colder than before. Their breaths came out in faint clouds. The whispering didn't stop. It grew louder, swirling around them like a chorus of unseen voices. Then, the door slammed shut behind them. Emily whimpered. Sophia grabbed Jake's hand. Ryan took a deep breath. "We need to find out what's keeping us here." They moved deeper into the house, passing the decayed furniture, the peeling wallpaper, the shattered glass on the floor. Then they saw it. At the end of the hallway stood a mirror, but it didn't reflect them. Instead, the surface rippled like water, and within it, they saw the girl. She stood on the other side, watching them. Then, she raised her hand and pointed at them. The whispering turned into a low, distorted laughter, and the lights flickered out. Darkness swallowed the house. The only sound was the group's ragged breathing. The whispering had stopped, but the eerie silence that followed was even worse. Then, footsteps, soft, slow, coming closer. Emily clutched Ryan's arm. "Where is she?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. No one answered. Their eyes were fixed on the mirror at the end of the hallway. The little girl was still there, but she was closer now. Her hand was no longer pointing at them. Instead, it pressed against the inside of the mirror, as if trying to push through. Her eyes were hollow, dark voids that seemed to pull in all the light around them. Then, in a voice that didn't belong to a child, she spoke. "You shouldn't be here." The words sent a chill down their spines. Sophia swallowed hard. We're trapped. We need to get out." Ryan took a shaky step forward. "Who are you?" The girl tilted her head, her tangled hair falling over her face. Jake gripped his camera tightly, his knuckles white. He lifted it, snapping a photo. The flash illuminated the hallway for a second, and that's when they saw them. Dozens of shadowy figures stood along the walls, barely visible in the dim light. They were silent, unmoving, watching. Jake's breath hitched. "Oh my God." Then, in the mirror, the little girl's lips curled into a smile. The figures rushed forward. Emily screamed as the shadows surged toward them. The hallway twisted, distorting, the walls stretching like melting wax. Ryan grabbed Emily's hand. "Run!" They turned, bolting toward the front door. The house shifted around them. The hallway stretched longer. The door seemed farther away. The shadows closed in, whispering incomprehensible words. Jake's camera flashed again, and for a split second, they saw the truth. The shadows weren't just figures. They were faces, terrified, trapped. People who had entered this house before, them, and never left. Sophia gasped. Oh God, they're trapped here." Mark grabbed her arm, pulling her forward. "We're not going to be next." They reached the door. Ryan yanked at the handle. It wouldn't budge. "The windows," Jake shouted. But as he turned, the windows disappeared. Only solid walls remained. Emily was sobbing. "There's no way out." The whispering grew louder, filling their heads, drowning their thoughts. Then, the girl spoke again. "You have to see the truth." The mirror at the end of the hallway shimmered. Ryan turned to the others. "That's it. That's the only way out." Mark's eyes widened. "Are you insane? That thing is what's keeping us here." Ryan didn't listen. He sprinted toward the mirror. The shadows surged forward, reaching for him. Jake lifted his camera and took another picture. The flash stunned the shadows for a split second. It was all the time Ryan needed. He jumped into the mirror. The surface rippled like water. And then he was gone. Sophia screamed. What just happened? Jake looked at the mirror. Ryan was no longer in it. Then the girl turned her head slowly to face them. "You have to follow him." The shadows closed in. Mark didn't think. He grabbed Sophia's hand and lunged forward, pulling her into the mirror. Jake and Emily hesitated for only a second before they jumped in after them. The moment they touched the surface, everything vanished. The house, the shadows, the whispers. There was only darkness. And then they opened their eyes. Ryan hit the ground hard. The impact knocked the wind out of him, and for a moment, everything spun. He gasped, pushing himself up. The others lay scattered around him, groaning as they struggled to their feet. Emily clutched her chest, breathing heavily. Where are we? They were no longer inside the house. Instead, they stood in a dimly lit space that stretched into nothingness. The walls were made of the same warped reflective surface as the mirror they had jumped through. But something was wrong. The reflections in the walls weren't theirs. Sophia took a shaky step forward, staring at the images in the glassy surface. The figures looked like them, but they weren't moving the same way. Jake raised his camera, snapping a photo. The flash illuminated the space, revealing distorted faces within the reflections. Then, the whispers returned. Emily clutched Ryan's arm. We need to get out of here. Mark turned in a slow circle. There's no door, no exit. Then, from behind them, a small voice spoke. You must finish what they started. They whirled around. The little girl stood there, her pale hands clasped in front of her. But this time, she looked different, less ghostly, more real. Ryan swallowed hard. What do you mean? She glanced at the mirrored walls. They are trapped, just like you almost were. Jake's breath caught. The other people in the house. She nodded. They came here just like you, but they never found the way out. Mark's hands curled into fists. Then tell us how to leave. The girl's dark eyes met his. You must break the mirror. They hesitated. Emily frowned. But isn't this whole place a mirror? The girl shook her head. Not this one. She pointed past them. They turned. At the far end of the space stood a massive, ornate mirror. Unlike the warped reflections around them, this one was clear. Through its surface, they could see the abandoned house, and beyond it, the village. Sophia's eyes widened. That's the real world. Jake tightened his grip on his camera. Then we smash it. They ran toward the mirror. But the moment they moved, the shadows erupted from the walls. Dark, twisted figures pulled themselves free from the glass. Their hollow eyes locked onto the group. Their whispers became screams. Ryan grabbed a broken piece of metal from the ground. Go, I'll break it. Mark shook his head. Not alone. They reached the mirror, just as the shadows lunged. Jake turned, raising his camera. Flash. The shadows shrieked, recoiling. Ryan didn't hesitate. He swung the metal with all his strength. The mirror shattered. A deafening roar filled the space. As everything collapsed, the darkness was torn apart by blinding white light. The ground beneath them vanished, and then they hit the floor. Hardwood, dusty, familiar. The house. They were back. The morning sun streamed through the broken windows. Outside, they could hear birds chirping. Emily sat up, her face pale. Are we really out? Jake looked at his camera. The last photo he had taken, the one of the mirror, was now pure white. Sophia's voice was barely above a whisper. What about the girl? They turned. She was gone. Mark exhaled, running a hand through his hair. We're never coming back here again. No one argued. Without another word, they stepped outside. The cool morning air filled their lungs, grounding them in reality. As they walked away, Jake glanced back one last time. The house stood silent and still, but in one of the broken windows, for just a second, he thought he saw a faint reflection. A little girl, smiling.